Welcome back to another lecture on the course Python Fundamentals Building Blocks for Aspiring Developers. We will continue with the fifth module, and this will be the last lecture of this module. According to our agenda, we are on the 20th day, and we will learn about dictionary comprehensions and a bit about iteration over dictionaries. So let's begin. So dictionary comprehensions are again similar to list comprehensions. They provide a precise or a concise way to create dictionaries in Python, like one-liner code. The concept is similar to list comprehensions or set comprehensions that we did. And similar to that one, we can simply create a dictionary using one line, and we can also use different filtering options as we did in the previous ones. This is an example of how it looks. We will go over this example in detail in the upcoming slides. So this is what a simple syntax would look like. So we have key expression and then value expression. So it is almost similar to list comprehension, but there is one difference, that in the list we did not have these two things, key expression and value expression. We just had in, we can say, item expression, that whatever item is there. But since a dictionary has two things, a key and a value, we can have two expressions, and we have to separate it by a colon so it remains in the format of a dictionary. So we have a key expression that will become the key, and the value expression will become the value of that particular key. And the rest is the same. We have item, then we have the iterable, and then we have a conditional statement, which is again optional. We can include it and we can even omit this one. So again, if we look at the syntax and the example, it will be much more clear. So squares is the variable name. So x colon x squared. So this is basically key expression and value expression. So in this one, the key is the x value and the value is the x squared. So in the range of 5. So if we look at the output, we say key will be x, so which means that key is as it is. So in the first iteration it is 0, square of 0 is 0, so it is 0. The next item is 1, so x remains 1, square of 1 is 1. And then if we move to 2, x remains 2, the key remains 2, but the value for that key is a squared value, so that becomes 4, and so on for 3 and 4, these two values. And here are some other examples. For example, if we want to use conditionals, we can use a conditional for even numbers. You can see in the output of the top one, only even numbers are there. And we can even use a zip function with dictionary comprehensions. So zip function allows us to basically convert two lists into a dictionary using this comprehension value. So you can see the syntax is pretty much the same, but where we specified the range, we are now specifying zip, and in the zip we write the two lists that we have. So this will basically be like key and values, and the output is also according to that one. And for the iterations, which we previously went over some ways of iterating over a dictionary, there is one other way that we can use, that is using the enumerate. So enumerate allows us to also get the index. Sometimes we want the index. It could be a use case that requires us to have an index. In that case, we can use this syntax for the for loop. So in this one, we say for index. This is the one that will keep track of the index. This is similar to list, like 0 index, 1 index, 2 index, and so on. And in enumerate, we say my dictionary dot items. So the items are tuple. So this is why we write for index and key value as a tuple. And then in the loop, we can use these values as it is. So let's start coding. So let's open up VS Code. I'll remove the previous code from here and just begin. So the first thing we want to do is create a dictionary using a dictionary comprehension. So this is what as a dictionary. This is the key here, and the value I want to give it is the, let's say, squared, 4x in range, let's say 5, and I say print my dictionary. Everything seems fine. Let me clear this console and let's run this code. So now we have 0 and 1, 1 and 1, same concept. So what it does is that, let's say it has 5 iterations. 5 iterations, right? In the first iteration, key is as it is, which is x. So the key becomes this, and the value becomes what? X squared, that is again 0. For the next one, key is 1, and the value becomes 1. For the next one, the key is now 2, and the value now becomes 2 squared, that is 4. And similarly, key is now 3, and the value becomes now 9. And similarly for this one, key is now 4, and value becomes 16. This is why we are saying it like this. This is just for explanation. Now I can also apply some operation on the key too. Like maybe I do not want the key to be like this. I want to do something else. So maybe I want to, um, let's say, add a string. So I say name and then plus. And since x is a number and I want to concatenate it, I will convert it into a string now. So what do you think will happen? So if you run the code, so it says name 0, name 1, name 2. So this 0 is the same as we learned in the previous concept. But now I'm concatenating this name string with this value. So now it says name 0, and this simply becomes 0. This is simply the squared value of this one. So you understand the concept. We can even put an expression over here for the key, and we can also put an expression here for the values according to what we want. So this is how we can create dictionary comprehensions. So now let's go ahead and look at the zip syntax. So let's say I have these values A, and then I have B, and then I have C, and then I have, let's say, values equals to 1, 2, 3, and so on. So now I want to create a dictionary from these values. Now one way could be that I could use a for loop, and like I could do it like this. I could say my dictionary is an empty dictionary, and then I could say for I in, let's say, range, and let's say length of keys. So this means that it will run 3 times. I did not do for I in keys because I want to use the index values instead of using the items directly. Because what I will do is that I will say my date, and then I would say keys I is equal to values, and then I, and so it will do like this. So what it is doing is that iterating through this list for my dictionary. This is the key. This is not there. I'm actually adding this one over here. So keys I means I is 0 for the first iteration. So it will say, okay, now this. So this becomes the key in the dictionary, and the value is again I, which is 0. So this becomes the value here 1. The next iteration, I has a value of 1. So this means at the first index. So it gives a key here for B, and the value again I first index 2. So by doing this, the key and I will be like the same indexes, so they're not jumbled up. But this is a very long way to write it, so this is why we can also write it using a dictionary comprehension method. So I would say key, and then I would say value, for key comma value in zip keys values and run the code. So again, the same exact thing is there. So I've given here two things in the for loop, for key and value, because in the zip we have two things. So what zip does is that it kind of combines the two and it keeps the indexes the same. So the thing is that at the 0th index, it remains at the 0th index, and the first one remains at the first one for this one too. So the order is maintained. So now instead of using a loop, I can use this dictionary comprehension method to create a new dictionary, and that is much more concise and you can say faster too. So this is how we can use this one. Now, why would we need to do this? For example, you have names in one dictionary, in one list. Let's say you get some data from someone, or maybe from an API or something like that. You get one list separately, and you get their ages in a separate list. So I want to combine them into a dictionary, so I would use this one. And now I can use this one because I know John has an age of 21, Doe has an age of 22. So I could simply just write this. I know if I know I want to look at their ages, so I would just say, okay, John, and it will print me the age of John. So the age of John is 21. So now I don't have to keep track of these indexes. You see? So this is how it is useful in converting from lists to dictionaries. But again, it depends on the use case and the data structure that we have. Now let's have a look at the final thing that we learned. That was the enumerate method. So what I want to do is that let's in fact create a dictionary. Let's just copy this one from here, and let's say this is my dictionary now. Let me get rid of this one. Let me get rid of this one. So I'm just using this one just for him example. So what I would do is that I would say for index comma key value. Now I'm just adding the space so it is easier to read in the code. And it's a good practice to add proper spaces at proper places so code is easier to read. In enumerate, and in the enumerate I would say my dict dot items this, and now in the for loop I can simply print the items. I mean, I can print the items, but I can pretty much do anything with them. Let's just say index, and then we have key, that is key, and then we have value, which is value, like this. Now if I run the code, okay, it says invalid syntax because it should be a comma, and like this. So it says index 0, key is John, value is 21, index is 1, and so on. So maybe sometimes you want to keep track of the index. For example, we have another data set. Let's say my list is equals to this, and let's say it has the score of the people 8.3, 9.1, 5.6, something like that. I know that the scores are in the correct order, like the first one is for John, second one is for Doe, and the third one is for Carl. Um, and let's just do 5.6. So I know it is like this, but maybe in the code I do not want to put them into a dictionary. I just want to use them once. So using the index, I can access the values in the dictionary, in the list. So what I can do is that I would say print name of the person is name is what name is the key here. This is the name. I would say age of the person is what value. This one is the age. So I would say value, and then I would also want to get their score, but the score is in a different list, but the um, but they're in the same order. So I can say, okay, score is in this one, and the first one, this item is at the 0th index, so I only want the score at the 0th index. So I would say uh, my list, and the index is what? Index, like this. Okay, let me comment this out. We don't need it now. So in the first iteration, this enum index will have a value of 0. So we will print John, then we will print the age, then the score will be printed from this list. And the second one, this is the name, this is the age, and the score will be printed from here. And we can only access the score because we are using an index here. Now if I run this, you can see name this, age 21, score 8.3, name do, age 22, score 9.1, and so on. So you see these different, you can say tricks or features in Python allow us to even work with 2 or 3 different data structures or sequences together. This is why these are important to learn. So that was all in this lecture and in this module. However, we do not have a quiz for this one, but we do have a mini assignment. So this is the mini assignment. I will describe it to you. So the purpose of the mini assignment is that you need to use all the concepts that we've learned previously, starting from the first lecture of the course and up till now. Some of the concepts will obviously be not be used, but still, once you start coding, you will need to look back at different subjects, different modules, different topics to get this assignment done. You need to figure out how you need to code, what things you need to do. So I will not tell you you need to use dictionaries or things like that, like use a loop here, use a loop here. I will not tell you all that. I will read the description. I will give you possibly a hint of how you could do it, and then you will do it. And after this one, in the next video, we will look at a solution. So one thing I want to say is that for this one, there is no one correct solution. For example, for a data structure, you could possibly use a list or a dictionary. That depends on what you feel is better. Both of them will be correct because both of them can answer the questions or the scenario. That is up to you. But still, it should be that it should make sense and work together, and you should try and code what you think is the most efficient one. Okay, so now let's just quickly go over the assignment. So the assignment is that you need to create a script called studentmanagement.py. So what it does is that it will basically allow us to manage students. So we say define an empty list named students to store student records. Okay, so there is an empty list and each item will have a record of a student. So what records of the student we have? We have their name, age, and grade. Only 3 things for each student. But let's say there are 10 students. So these 3 records for each student should be in the list. Now you need to figure out if you want to put them in a dictionary, you want to put them in a tuple, you want to put them in a list. However you feel like is best, just go for it. And then we need to implement the following functions. So add student is that you need to add a new student record to the list. Now for this one, what you will do is that you will define the function, whatever body you will write, but one hint is that the user will input the names. So you will possibly use the input function. So you will say, okay, you will ask from the user enter the name, age, and grade, and then you need to update the dictionary or you need to update the list, whatever you have, so that the student is added to the list that is called students. And then we have view students. So this one simply shows you the students, their information, name, age, and grade, nothing else. Then we have update student. So we want to, let's say, update an existing record. We want to change the grade. We want to change the age. Um, Even if you want to change the name, but for simplicity, you can just consider that we want to change the age and grade only. We do not want to change the name because name cannot be changed. The name is the same. So you should allow functionality to change age and grade or maybe one of them at one time. And then we have delete student, that is that maybe the student has passed out, um, has graduated, and now we need to delete the student information from the database. So from the list, we need to delete that entry of the student that has the records of the student. So what you will do is that you will use a while loop. So it is important to use a while loop here. You will see once you start coding to display a menu to the user. Now all of this will be coded um, on the command prompt. There will be no user interface. So it will be like one how we saw we entered input, we entered that into the terminal of VS Code. So it will be like that. Okay, you need to keep that in mind. So what you need to do is that you need to create a menu. Menu should have obviously four options: add student, view student, delete student, and update student. So four options. The person select one option, and for example, the person selects view students, then students information should be shown, and then after that it should return to the main menu. From there the user can select another option and so on. There should be a fifth option that says quit the program. When the person chooses this option, the program should close and quit. So that's all. It seems pretty simple, but once you get coding, there will be a lot of things that you will have to have a look at. Now I want to give you some sort of a hint about the quit. So there could be maybe two ways that you can do it. One of the ways is, I mean, you can figure it out. We have looked at that in one of the previous lectures. I will not say it, but you have to figure that out. So it's about to do with loops and quitting. So figure that out. And there's also some sort of exit function in Python that just closes the code. So you might want to check that out. You can research about that on internet. So it's like whichever you feel is better, but I would suggest that you go with the option that we have learned in this one and not the exit option. So whatever we have learned also comes into practice. So that is all for the program. And to test your program, you will just simply like do a bit of testing to see everything works correct or not. So that is all. And yeah, keep in mind the things that I had told you in the start of this assignment description. Keep that in mind and start the assignment. And in the solutions video, we will have a look at this one. We will also see how different solutions can be, and like what things could be different and if they work or not. So that will be all in this lecture. Again, focus on the assignment, recall all the previous concepts, try and see where they can be included, where they can be used. For many of the concepts in the previous lectures, we did like small examples of how they could be used in real world, like maybe a mean or maybe lists or maybe for loops of how they are used. So just try and make sense of those, connect those dots and create this assignment. And that will be all for this one and would be end of the lectures for this module. And in the next lectures, we will start with the next module. And up till then, goodbye. We will see you in the next one.